Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, Magnetic Reversal News, Sacred Geography, and Shinrin-yoku, bringing you a grand solar minimum update Monday, January 16th, around 9:30 p.m., 2023. Heavy snow in South Korea. Russia logs its coldest January temperature since 1982. Arctic air hits Europe, delivers feet of snow. Plus, there's cooling in Australia. But the big story, a California town will be digging out of record snow for months. Keep calm. It's boom time. It's true. Take a look. Mammoth Lakes, California sees record snow, decades breaking, and it's going to take a team of professionals to clear the snow accumulating on homes. Some people have contacted us from the region saying they've been shoveling 4 and 5 feet of snow off their roofs for weeks.
Yeah, the most.
Take a look
I
at
think
this.
they said the most snow in the world or something right now that we have here in Mammoth.
All the way out.
It's pretty nuts.
As Mammoth Lakes, California is seeing record amounts of snow, it takes a team of professionals to clear the snow accumulating on homes. We spoke to Clark Tapia, the owner of Old Faithful Property Management, whose team is currently working to clear off homes in town.
This is probably like our 9th or 10th one. We got about 30 guys rolling, and then I have another couple of crews. Friends of ours, they're bringing up another 80 on Monday. We're trying to take care of like the local community first and then getting on to our second homes and stuff. So.
Many homes in town are rentals or second homes due to the popular ski resort.
Well, we manage a bunch of HOA complexes, second homes, Airbnb, VRBOs, but on our list currently we have probably about 15 houses left to do.
We watched as Tapia's team takes down the snow and ice hanging dangerously over the roof of a home. They have to strap in with ropes and harnesses as the snow and ice are dangerously slippery. It is a slow and tedious process. Due to the inches of ice cementing the snow to the roof, the whole piece does not tend to slide off in a satisfying way. Plus, we're told it would be dangerous and could be destructive to let the whole sheet come down at once.
We're going to be shoveling for months. It's going to be hectic.
From Mammoth Lakes, California, I'm Amy DeLaura for Washington Examiner.
That's absolutely insane, the amount of snow. Just mind-boggling. Now, Public Works is also preparing to plan to clear record snow from St. Paul residential roads 2 weeks after a record-breaking storm in a record-breaking winter for snowfall. Several residential roads in St. Paul, Minnesota remain slippery and lined with ruts and snow that has never been removed. So we have this problem across the country. Now, ice and snow to impact Maine through Monday. That'll be your fun day. New slide on Highway 1 just occurred south of Big Sur. Oh, that looks huge. Let's take a look.
Caltrans crews also keeping busy with more rock slides on Highway 1 south of Big Sur. Caltrans reported a new slide covering this section of roadway. This is Sunday near mile marker 18. That's located near the San Luis Obispo County line. Highway 1 remains closed until further notice between south of Deachin's Big Sur Inn all the way to Elephant Seal Vista.
Holy macaroni, we got landslides, record snow, impossible to remove snow, and we still have lots of winter to go. Utah making up ground in the battle against drought. And guess how they're doing that? Snow. Shut up, Al. Get in your hole. In fact, the snow depth doubled in the last 30 days at some Utah sites, according to researchers. And the West Side Snowtel current snow water equivalents are looking spectacular. Take a look at this. In 7 states, we have almost all regions above 100% water equivalent. Some up to 200% and more. And we are midwinter, and these numbers are epic, because these are numbers that are expected for now. And in some areas, there's 200%, which is the entire snow water equivalent for the entire winter here in central Nevada. So they're not going to ever be in a depleted mode. They are already beyond what they get in a single year. Holy macaroni. More interesting here, we're at the National Hurricane Center, where they actually have a disturbance up in January. This is the strangest time to have a hurricane disturbance up from the National Hurricane Center. Most people are on sabbatical and on vacation right now. This is the first hurricane of the 2023 winter season. Let's take a look.
Meteorologist Brooks Garner. I work in Orlando, Florida at Fox 35, and we study the tropics a lot. But I'll show you something that is very uncommon, although not terribly unheard of, a way out of season tropical system potential. And that's exactly what the National Hurricane Center is tracking between Bermuda and New England. Now, this is not going to happen. It's got a 0% chance of actually developing. But you know that old saying, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, well, maybe it's a duck? In this case, this thing looks like a little hurricane, doesn't it? It's got an eye wall feature to it. It's got thunderstorms in the center. It's got a concentric buzz saw-like shape. I mean, goodness, to the untrained eye, this is a tropical system, and it's way out of season. Is this the first tropical system of the 2023 hurricane season? Thankfully, no. It is not. And the reason is that it is over waters that are simply not warm enough to support a tropical system, and it's on the very edge of some very cold polar air. In fact, it's in a frontal zone, the center of circulation right here. It's sitting over the Gulf Stream, and that's partially where it's getting its energy from, at least the thunderstorms rotating around its center of circulation. But because it's got very cold air back toward the west and warm air back toward the east, it's in what's called a baroclinic zone. That is where you have a contrast in temperatures that drives the low pressure system. That's where you get frontal zones, like a cold front and a warm front. And so while this does look like a tropical system, it is not a tropical system. But as far as conditions are on the ocean for shipping lanes and for shipping interests, it's got storm force winds. It's got thunderstorms in the center. Effectively, it's a fast moving system, which essentially represents a tropical system. But that said, officially it's not. It's sitting in cold air, so by definition, it cannot be. And as it continues to work north and eastward,
This is not a unique occurrence in any sense of the word. The 1804 New England hurricane is precedent. And now this is back in the Dalton minimum, which is why we do a grand solar minimum update. So we're now seeing similar type storms developing off of New England, similar to the 1804 New England hurricane, also known as the Storm of October, 1804. This was the first tropical cyclone in recorded history known to have produced snowfall. An unusual late-season storm in 1804 yielded vast amounts of snow, rain, and powerful winds across northeastern United States. Prior to its approach towards the east coast of the U.S., it passed through the Caribbean Sea on October 4th and later emerged near Georgetown, South Carolina. But early on October 9th, a trough near the Virginia Capes turned the disturbance towards New England. Soon thereafter, the hurricane abundance moisture clashed with an influx of cold Canadian air, which is what this system is about to do. So very similar conditions. Will we be seeing the winter hurricane of 2023? Well, let's get to the models, shall we? Or first, let's talk about the forecast. Finally, a break for California. The last storm in a long series of atmospheric river events, and at today's count, it is now 9, will move out of California and into the Four Corners region. It's going to bring us another foot of snow Tuesday through Wednesday morning. Precipitation will taper off in California, and heavy mountain snow will spread across the Southwest, the Rockies, and then into the high plains. Here you can see the systems as they move through. There's the development Wednesday through the Four Corners. It's going to dissipate Wednesday night and then rapidly develop through Nebraska, Iowa on Thursday, and then Wisconsin and Michigan Thursday and Friday. And then it's going to be in New England by the weekend. Friday is looking, well, like a heavy snowmaker in New York State, Vermont. Let's take a look at the totals, shall we? Let's bring this back. Okay, let's walk it through. Here's your Tuesday. That system tomorrow is going to move into the Four Corners region, bring us another foot or more to Archuleta County. While only a foot or so is going to fall, that's the remaining snow in the Sierras. Here we've moved it through to Wednesday when the storm's going to develop in Nebraska. It's going to have dropped a foot or a foot and a half of snow in our region. and is going to rapidly move across, producing 7 to 14 inches of snow through the upper Midwest, Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan. Hello. And then you can see the snow developing in the Northeast as early as Tuesday in the mountainous regions and continuing on through Wednesday. A big pump up on Friday and Saturday in the Northeast. You can see those heavy totals in Vermont, New Hampshire, and upstate New York. So Gore Mountain, Killington, and all the typical ski resorts are going to get a powder boom by the end of January. Now, if we move the models forward, we've got multiple systems. This big system's another nor'easter here, potentially happening on the last week of January, starting Wednesday or Thursday, January 26th, 7th, and 8th, is going to bring some heavy snow to the Northeast, including all of Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New York State, as well as central PA. So, hey, more snow on the way. Shut up, Al! It's way past his bedtime. We already talked about the Electroverse expose that came out today. All the links will be below as to everything we talked about. So please dive in to that section, the description box below the video. Heavy snow in South Korea. Russia logs its coldest January temperature since 1982. Arctic air hits Europe and delivers feet of snow. Is that true? Well, extreme cold is now claiming up to 20 lives in Afghanistan. This is breaking news. And extreme cold is also sweeping Russia's Far East. This is coming out just moments ago. And another breaking news story here from Wyon. Severe cold temperatures are battering nations. The world is now experiencing severe winter storms in the last recent years, with experts taking a close look at the link between these extreme cold events, wait for it, and climate change. Shut up, Al! Countries like China, US, Iran, Afghanistan, and India are facing one of the most bitter colds ever in history, and they want to blame it on climate change? That used to be called global warming. Something is amiss. Here is the European forecast, and there is no exceptional warm happening anywhere. In fact, by the time we get to mid-January, it's going to be freezing across most of Europe, and people are going to be feeling the lack of global warming goodness. That's for truth. And take a look at the snowfall totals. Scotland, Ireland, the UK, hey, the Alps, northern Spain, northern Africa, and all regions in Europe are going to be picking up record snow by the end and the beginning of February. And I think that February is going to tilt some records as far as snowfall totals. So stay tuned for more boom. Seismic update, lots of activity today. We have major activity in the Philippines and Indonesia today. We have major activity in Japan, 6.3. We have a cacophony of quakes in Guatemala today, but no major quakes that affected anyone's lives in a sense. So that's good news on the seismic front. Also, we're taking a close eye on the seismicity here in Iceland. We can see some activity here in the south. I think this is Hekla, and we're keeping a close eye on Ascia as well as the Reykjanes Peninsula. But very low-level activity on Iceland. Worldwide volcano news update. Good news. All volcanoes are, behaving well. Space weather news update. The sun has shut down. During solar max, we have gone, we have turned off. There are dozens of sunspots peppering the disk, and nothing is happening as far as X-ray flux. Almost a 36-hour period of quiet below sea range. This would be indicative of grand solar minimum, which we are in. Plasma speed barely, we can't even get the data, so stay tuned for more space weather news updates. as they are needed. Now let's take a look at the trends in atmospheric carbon dioxide, shall we? And I want you to bring your attention to what carbon dioxide does annually, because apparently some people don't have any understanding of science or the scientific method or even data. And I won't name any names, but many of you that are informed know what I'm talking about. Some people are claiming that carbon dioxide has precipitously dropped, and the mainstream is not telling us. Well, carbon dioxide goes up and down about 10 to 15 parts per million every year, winter and summer. And these numbers are coming from the Mauna Loa Observatory. That's where the main CO2 number comes from. And if you can look at the long-term data, you can see how it rises and falls about 20 parts per million every year. So yeah, carbon dioxide did fall down to 415 and peaked at around 425 this year, but it's going back up like it always does. It's been slowly rising continuously for decades. Now, what hasn't been happening is the temperature rising. Now, the global temperatures have been about flat for the last 2 decades. There's been no warming for 2 decades. Nothing. It's flat. We're back to the baseline in December. So there really hasn't been any warming for about 20 years on Earth. Nothing expected. Yet, in the last 20 years, CO2 has gone straight up. Now, if the global warming hypothesis that CO2 affects temperature has gone straight up like this, why is temperature flat? No one has an explanation. Well, I do. The explanation is that CO2 has nothing to do with the temperature of Earth. The temperature of Earth controls carbon dioxide. Yeah. And that CO2 will continue to go up until the temperature precipitously drops, and a few decades later, the CO2 will fall with it. Now, did Russian archaeologists really discover a new ancient culture? Doubtful. We'll leave you links below. What they did find, according to the story first published by Haaretz and now making rounds on archaeological news websites, the discovery took place as workers bulldozed a mound that at the time they believed to be a natural hill. They quickly discovered that it was not. And since 2021, Dr. Dmitry Viganordov and his team have been excavating the site. The tomb itself is about 2,000 years old and features a large rectangular pit lined with wood and inlaid with birch bark carpet. When it was in use, the tomb likely had a roof, but the bulldozing of this site destroyed all evidence of it. Inside the tomb were the remains of 50 people who were interred alongside their most prized belongings. Now, archaeologists found bronze axes, daggers, knives, mirrors, needles, bronze plaques, beads, and ceramic containers for food. One plaque showed an image of a stag and a popular ancient motif of Siberian Scythian art. So, there you go. Is it a new culture? No, it's probably the Siberian Scythians. Now, Wyoming moves to ban the sale of electric vehicles by 2035. Kudos to Wyoming. We may move there. Criminal proceedings begin for Russians behind missile strike. Ukraine soldiers arrive at Fort Sill. You've heard about this. This is breaking news today. Ukrainian authorities are now beginning criminal proceedings Monday against Russian soldiers blamed for the missile strike that devastated a 9-story apartment building in Ukraine and killed at least 40 people as of this hour. The only problem is that people in Ukraine are claiming that it was a Russian missile shot down by Ukraine. So therefore, the devastation here was not from a Ukrainian missile, but from a Russian missile, but from Ukraine. Just like all of the residential buildings that are claimed to come from Russian. Anyway, did you know that Ukraine is bombing its own people and has been doing so for a decade? That's the point we're trying to get across. That's real news. You want more real news and real science? Come over to Leak Project and check out the last video he uploaded. Diamond and Rex did an interview today about some really tantalizing topics: Göbekli Tepe, the Ice Age, the fact that we're still in an ice age, and that the mainstream science narrative is garbage. And that's a boom to knowledge. Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. Hope you got something out of the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Become a Patreon. Support the work we do. We love you. Be safe. And that's a boom.